All right, everybody. I know y'all been watching a lot of your MLF pros go fishing and learn a lot about that, and it's kind of what I wish we were doing today. But instead, we're going to do something a little different today. We're here at my shop where I build all of my black label crankbaits. These are homemade balsa baits that I actually build with my own two hands. And I'm going to take y'all kind of through the process of how you basically turn this stick of balsa wood into this finished crankbait. So come on, we'll go get started. It's going to be kind of an involving process. I welcome y'all's questions. I'll try to answer as many of them as I can, and hopefully y'all find this as entertaining as I do. So this is my shop. Basic layout. I got my paint room here. We do a lot of centrifugal casting, things of that nature. Just mold storage and then the actual baits that we're working on. But what we're going to start with this is we're going to start by going and shaping us a balsa body. I've got a room separate from this one that has a replicate machine in it that I use to actually form this body from this stick of wood. So come on, we'll go cut some and then we'll start from there going through the whole process. So basically this is the replicate my body blanks. You feed your wood in from one side, if you'll come over here you'll be able to see a little better. So your wood feeds in and it actually, I'll open it up when it's not on, it actually follows a masterpiece that you put in the center pin of it and traces it off of these wheels onto these saw blades and cuts out your body out of a block of wood. We'll turn it on and cut one. It'll take a few minutes. It's a little bit loud, but we'll kind of see how it all goes down. So you really can't see much. Right here, you got the master in the center of it, right here turning. And if you scroll over a little bit, you can see this is actually the body itself being shaped out of the block of wood. So that's what I was trying to explain a while ago. These roller wheels are working off of your center model, and it's tracking that pattern onto this block of wood, and it's all in timing, so everything's being fed forward at the same rate of speed. So it's tracing that basic shape onto your saw blade, which is cutting it out of your block of wood. And we're cutting two at a time. We're cutting one here and we're cutting one here at the same time. So you've actually got two parts running at the same time. This is actually a bait that I'm cutting right here. Is actually not the wreck body that I was holding earlier. This is a new bait that I'm working on that's not even actually out yet. So I've cut some bodies for it over the weekend, something that I'm kind of playing with. You gotta do something with your spare time. So we're about to end the cycle. You'll see here, it's going to actually cut the bodies off and they'll fall. It should come out of this slot right here. Now, there we go. So it actually only cut one of them off. Sometimes it'll do that, but the other one will break right off. So that's it. That's basically how here. You know, this is a real rough, unsanded. It's not at all as simple as just cutting one out and painting it. This is a real rough shape. May have to have a little bit of hand sanding done to it, but this will get you really close and is a good starting point. I had a guy ask a question, what machine is this that I'm running to cut my bodies? This is actually a handmade replicate machine that was handmade. This is not a machine that you can just go buy. There's very few of these that have been built, and you're right, it's a very cool piece of equipment. I'm very blessed and thankful to have this machine. Without this machine, making balsa baits is very, very difficult to make them with any consistency. So now we've got our basic part. We got what we're going to start with, and we'll take this and we'll kind of go back into the main shop and start the process of getting it finished and getting it ready to go. These are all baits that we're currently working on that are in the assembly phase. This is a set that I started building some time back. It's just not complete yet. Okay, so we got our body cut. I've got a couple bodies here. Now, I don't know how well y'all can see, but these bodies are actually much smoother than what came off the actual machine. And what it is, these bodies have been through a sanding process, and they've actually been sealed as well. So I'm not going to get into all that today. It's a really time-consuming process, and it's a lot of steps, and it takes a long period of time. I think y'all would probably lose interest before I could get it done, but it basically takes the roughness away from the outer shell, and it gives it an original sealing. It's not sealed completely. It's going to get sealed a lot more times, but it's a basic starting point. And the other thing that process does is it hardens the wood. You know, balsa wood, when you first fill a piece of balsa wood, and I use a grade of balsa wood that's fairly hard. You can get it in all different grades, but man, it's not really rigid. It's not. You wouldn't want to use a piece of balsa wood to defend yourself. I'll put it to you like that. So we've hardened it up some, and that's going to enable us to work with it and actually help it when it's all said and done be a more durable bait. So the next thing we need to do once we've got our body shaped is we've got to drill it and get our ballast in it. And I've got a fixture right here that I drill it in. I've already got it set up, and basically you go into, you can see I just drilled a hole in the center of the bait. And then this is your ballast right here. And all the different models that I make, they all take different size ballast or belly weights, whatever you want to call them. A lot of people call them belly weights. If you'll notice, it has an eyelet attached to it. And this eyelet will actually, when it's all said and done, become your front hook hanger. So basically what you're going to do is, I'm not going to go through the process of actually gluing it, but we'd mix up the adhesive that we use and inject it into the bait, and then actually install this ballast right like so. And you can see it's perfectly centered in the bait, and when the bait's all painted and said and done, that's actually what your front treble hook will attach to. So you're kind of accomplishing two things at once. I got a guy asking, where these come from. I actually manufacture these here as well. That's a different process, but these are made in the form of centrifugal casting, and it's just a lead casted piece with a wire insert that's molded into it, so you don't have to worry about it coming apart. So once we got this accomplished, the bait is then going to go onto a paint stick. I think my dog wants to go outside. There. So Sorry about that. So once we get the ballast glued in the bait and it dries, I put my baits on racks. These are just homemade racks, just little 1x2s, and they've got pins in them. And you can actually just press the bait down onto the pin. So the bait's still pretty soft at this point. It's only been sealed one time. And you can see that's all these are done. These are kind of something I'm working on getting painted. Now I've got, typically I put 6 of these on a stick, depending on what size they are. And I've got the bait ready to start getting it to where it can actually be painted. And that's kind of another whole process. So basically to get a good, a good outer shell on, I don't know how well you can see, but these baits right here have actually been coated about 5 to 7 times with a shell coating. It takes all the roughness away. It's a dipped process, and I did this ahead of time because it's really not that exciting. And it has to dry, and I wanted to be able to show y'all what it looked like when it was completely dried and completely cured. So we've got 5 to 7 coats of this, and the reason you have very different coats would be based on temperature. Temperature makes this chemical thinner, so you get a thinner application each time. Colder weather makes it thicker. You can get by with less coats. It's kind of a learned process as to how many coats you'll put on each batch of baits that you make. That's one thing that makes these balsa baits difficult, is you're really never going to build a balsa bait or balsa baits throughout the year. The ones you build in January, you just about got to build the ones you build in July or August different, just because of the air temperature, and that's even inside of a climate control facility like what I have here. So once we get this done and all this is dry, now we've completely taken away all the roughness of the bait. We've got a perfectly smooth, it basically just feels like that piece of balsa wood that we cut is just covered in glass. And that's what you want it to be. I think a lot of guys that build baits at home and stuff, I think that part of the process is probably one of the parts that they probably suffer with the most, because they get one cut out and they can't stand it. They want to paint it. Everybody likes the painting them, because that's kind of the fun part. It's kind of where it starts to come to life. But the prep work in painting them is way more important than the actual painting them. The actual painting them is probably one of the easiest parts. So once I get it to this point where it looks like, it's dry, it's cured, and all that's done, the next thing I'm going to do is get the bait painted white. And this is just a white base coat, done with a high pressure gun or dip application, however you want to do it. And once you get them white, then you're ready to actually paint them. So I think today we'll paint one of these. These are actually wreck bodies, and this is actually a wreck right here. So I'm gonna show you right quick. It'll take a few minutes. But we're actually gonna paint this stick of baits this color, which is river brim, which is one of my very favorite colors. And it's also a very favorite color of many other anglers I know, because we sell a tremendous amount of this color. So come on over here and we'll set up and we'll get one painted.
One question is, what's the advantage, what type of advantage is there to balsa wood compared to other types of crankbaits?
Well, it's really a personal preference. Balsa wood baits, as you can see by this process, they're handmade. They're not a mass-produced product. And because they're handmade, you get little bitty, I hate to say this word, but it's really imperfections in them that makes them all a little bit different. And you'll end up with those baits that are just kind of special. That's one of the biggest allures of balsa baits, is that it's a custom handmade bait. No two are exactly the same. You're not out there with a bait that every fish has seen, felt, and heard rattle ever since they were brought into creation. The flip side of that is there are certain specific applications where I feel like balsa is better than plastic. And there's also certain applications where I feel like plastic is better than balsa. A great application I feel like balsa is probably better than plastic is around real thick, dense wood. That's why the balsa square bill has always been kind of the balsa bait that everybody's always wanted. It's always been super popular. Another application that I feel like balsa bait is better than plastic is super cold, clear water. And you get into all your, your flat-sided balsa baits. There's something about the way balsa, acts in that colder water. It's just more natural. It has a more natural swimming action. that kind of sets it apart from what a plastic bait is. Now, in the defense of all the plastic baits in the world, it's very difficult to try to build a balsa bait that will compete with a deep diving crankbait, just because it's really difficult to try to, it would be hard to build a balsa bait with all the internal weight transfer systems. You're not going to get the castability you get with plastic. You're also not going to get a bait that has the ability to have the weights inside of it move, so it's not going to run as deep. So there's certain situations where plastic is better than balsa and vice versa. And a lot of it is just personal preference. I actually do fish with a lot of plastic baits, and I have, as you can tell, pretty much any balsa bait that I want at my disposal. So let's see if we can get one painted.
One question is, how long does it take to make one from start to finish?
About 2 weeks. And that's why I make them in batches like we just sitting on that table in there. A lot of your time in building these is really the drying. Now, to paint one of these, I typically like to paint my baits from start to finish, really from the bottom up. So I'm gonna get these cut. Basically what I'm doing is cutting these so that I can turn them on the stick without the paint shattering. You see how I cut them, and now they'll spin. So I can adjust them to whatever I need them adjusted to. So y'all just bear with me. It's gonna take a few minutes to go through painting a stick, just because of all the color changes. So we're gonna start at the bottom. The first thing I'm gonna do is just throw the little orange throat on there. You can see it. We're gonna start on the bottom. We're gonna work our way up. Get us a little chartreuse for the sides. The reason I start from the bottom and work my way up is because it allows all your layers of paint to kind of blend over themselves. So, as you can see on this bait right here, you got your white belly bleeding into chartreuse and then bleeding into actually blue. So we're going to leave the bottom of it white and come in on the sides with our chartreuse. You can see what we got right there. Now we've got our white belly, which all I did was just keep the white that was used to base coat the bait. We've got our orange throat, we've got our chartreuse sides. Get the chartreuse out of the gun.
Dustin asked, what's your favorite bait to make?
I've made enough of them now that I don't have a favorite anymore. I don't really kind of like any of them. No, I'm a flat bait guy. I know, I mean, everybody loves the Balsa square bill, and I enjoy making them. But I really like making flat-sided baits just because I love fishing with them so much. You know, down here where I live, man, it's hard to go fishing in the summertime. A lot of times down here, it's 120 degrees. So I look forward to the wintertime. Everybody talks about fishing in the spring. I love to fish in the winter just because that's when our fish here in South Mississippi, on the Mississippi and Louisiana Gulf Coast, that's when they get grouped up, and that's when the cranking bite's really good, and a flat-sided bait really excels that time of the year. So my favorite baits you know, to make are the ones that I look forward to fishing with the most. So the next thing we're going to do is, you can see this blue background behind the copper scales. Hold it up there and look at it, but we got to get the blue on there first, and then the scale's going to go over it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some of the chartreuse and come in with the blue. Now we've got that done, kind of look at them head on, make sure they're kind of even. You don't want one that's all lopsided looking like me. You want them nice and straight. This is here to look that off. Get that out of the gunner. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to do this copper scaling that you see right here. A lot of people ask me how you get this scaling effect. A lot of guys are curious about that. Well, I'm going to show you right quick. So now I'm going to actually turn these back a little bit to where I have them. All right, so I've got some mesh here. This is a mesh that I like to use. You can use any kind of pattern you want. A wedding veil type mesh that you can get from a local craft store will work. You can use anything, any kind of pattern you want. When I was first making these baits just for me, back years and years ago, I actually used a piece of a safety vest for a pattern. But this is a mesh that I can buy in a roll. It's just more or less like a hardware cloth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the bait into it and then spray through it. And you can see it leaves you that perfect little scale print. We'll just run through these right quick. If y'all are interested in painting, any of y'all that like to airbrush or paint baits, be it balsa or plastic or whatever, I've got a couple other videos on my YouTube page that y'all might want to watch of me painting some of my more popular patterns.
Eric wants to know what kind of airbrush and paints do you like to use the most?
This is an Awada airbrush, and it is by far my favorite. I've used a lot of different ones. The Pache makes a pretty good one. I do think the Awada is maybe a little more. If you're going to use it as much as I am, which sometimes I'll sit here for, 12 or 15 hours in one day painting bait, so it's nice to have a good airbrush. You can get a Pache V series airbrush for $60 or $70 and pretty much paint any bait you want to paint with it. This is an Awada Eclipse. It's not much more than that. I do like it. It seems like it sprays a little cleaner, but the flip side of that is that your paint has to be a lot thinner to go through this than what the Pache will pick up. So I actually do use both from time to time. So we're getting a little closer now. You can see the copper scaling on there. So we're getting a lot closer now. So the next thing we need to do is paint the center back. The River Brim has a brown center line down the back. So what I'm gonna do now is just turn all the baits to where the back is facing me. Get us some dark brown in our gun here. Now you pretty well got it painted. You see how I started from the bottom up, and all your colors kind of shade over. You don't have any hard lines. That's why I like to start from the bottom and work my way to the top, because everything blends over itself. So all I really like now is putting the kill dot on it. So do the kill dot. And turn them all back on their side. Well, let's see. This is my little stamp. I got it right here. You can see. So I did the kill dot. I've actually got a set of stencils here, and if you look, these are actually stencils that I heat pressed and created more or less like shells of each half. So basically what it is a left and a right side of this particular model bait. I have it for all the baits that I make. I'll make a set of stencils, and it just makes painting the kill dot a whole lot easier. All I've got to do now is basically just take and stick the stencil on there and just spray through it. So that's that side. We'll spin it around. There you go. That is how you paint a black label river brand. Kill dots on both sides. Looks pretty good. So about 15 more steps and we'll be able to take us some fishing. Let me clean my airbrush out right quick so it doesn't dry in there, and we'll work on it some more. Okay. So the next step in the process is all the white label baits get 2 coats of clear coat. And the next step in the process is actually the first coat of clear coat. And before we do that, we're going to actually put a little black label sticker label brand mark on the bait. And I actually have those printed. Let's find the solid one here. So I get these little labels more or less just printed. They come on a roll, and they're pretty much just peel and stick. So I just take a little hobby knife, lift them up, There. Now we got it painted, we got our label on it, and now it would go through its first coat of clear. I'm not going to bother clear coating these. There's not really anything you can see. It's simply just an applied clear coat over the bait. And once you get them clear coated one time, they'll basically look like these on this table. The ones on this table already have the rear hook hanger installed, but more or less these baits will, once they're clear coated the first time, they'll come off of the stick and they'll look just like this. So the bait's ready to be assembled at this point. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tail off of it where it's stuck down on the stick. So you nip that off, and you want to just sand that down. Where you got a good clean tail. And then I have a press fixture made right here. So basically what this does is, you can't see up under it, but there's a centering pin in it. And that centers the hole in the rear of the bait. So once we've got that done, I'm gonna go ahead and do one more thing. This one we're in here. I'll just stand right here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the bill slot. It's gonna be really loud. I'm gonna let her stand right here, but I'll cut it right quick and then we'll put it together. Okay, now you can see it's starting to look more like a crankbait. We've got our hole in the tail of the bait, and we've got our bill slot cut in the bait. I like to cut my bill slots after the bait's painted. It just makes for a good crisp finish, and you don't have to tape the bill off and paint around it. A lot of guys like to put their bills in first. I actually like to do the bills afterwards. So now we've got our bill slot cut, and we've got our hole in the rear of the bait. So what we're going to do more or less now, we got one more thing. While we're in there, let's make us a bill. So I've got a fixture set up here. You can see it says wreck on it. This is actually what drilled that bill. This is a cut bill, but I've got to put a center hole in it for the line tie to go. You see it puts a hole. I've got it set up with the holes dead in the center. And then I think I've got some wire inserts in here. So once we got the hole in the bill, this is my line tie insert, and it's a wire that I've already formed. And it's going to press through the hole that we just drilled and pull down and compress against the bottom of the bill. And then I actually cut it off. I don't know where my pliers are, but I've got one right here that's already cut off. But this presents a new problem because you have this wire sticking down the bottom of the bill. So you got to accommodate for that in your bait. So what I like to do is just take a bill that I'm not, that's discarded, put it in the bait. I'm actually going to take a drill and get in the center of it. And drill a hole right there. That one kind of chipped on me. That first coat of clear coat, remember we skipped that step because obviously y'all don't have till tomorrow to let it dry. Will prevent against the chipping a lot. So now you more or less got a hole right there that your wire will go in. and you can actually fit your bill into the bait. Once we put our adhesive on it, center it, push it in just like that. I've got a fixture made that I put it in to get them as straight as I can get them. Again, these are handmade baits, so you can't expect every single one to be perfect, but we do test them all, so we do know that they run before they leave. So a lot of times the ones I find that the bill might be just a degree or so off or something like that are actually the better baits. A lot of people, complain about not wanting that, but to me it makes that bait do a little something different. Maybe it hunts a little bit harder or things like that. Now, I don't try to build them all a little bit off. I try to build them all as close to perfect as I can, but just in the fact that they're built by hand, you're going to have some that aren't 100% perfect. And that kind of goes back to the earlier question about, what separates balsa baits from plastic baits. So now we've got our bill, say it's installed and glued into the bait. It's had time to dry. The next thing we would do is actually take a syringe, and I will syringe this body of this bait. I take my rear pin and actually install it into the bait. So there you go. Now you got your bill with a line tie in it, you've got your front hook hanger, and you've got your rear hook hanger. And all that, that's the time in between these steps is a lot of the time about building these baits. When somebody asks how fast does it take or how long does it take to build one, between each one of these steps, you're just about looking at about a 12-hour drying time. So there's it's a lot of hurry up and wait to actually get these things built. That's why I like them in different sets. You see, I've got some in here that I'm gluing together. I've got some in there that I'm working on painting, and I've got some out there that are coming down, that'll be next in line that I'm working on cutting. So that gives me the ability to constantly be working on something and kind of pushing it all along a little bit at the same time.
One man says, why do you put the rear hanger horizontal versus vertical?
The reason I put the rear hanger horizontal is a plastic bait. Your plastic baits are vertical because they're two pieces and they're fused together. So they have to lay that insert in there so it will fit. I like it horizontal because it actually does not let the split ring and hook come as far down the belly. So I can put a little bit bigger hook on the bait if I want and then not get tangled between the front hook hanger and the rear hook hanger. So turning it horizontal, you're actually preventing the hook from being able to go down the side of the bait. Another aspect I think the horizontal deal helps is when a fish eats this bait, rather than a treble hook wanting to push up or push down against the body of the bait, it pushes it side to side, so left or right, which makes it more apt to go in the fish versus it being up under the body of the bait pinned where it can't go in the fish. So that's the reason for the horizontal rear hook hanger. You'll see that in a lot of custom built baits. So now we've got this one done to this point, the next thing we're going to do is paint the eyes on the bait. And there again, that's another done by hand deal. It's not a complicated process. It's just time consuming. So basically what I'm going to do is I've got these dowel pens. That's what I like to use to paint eyes. And I've got some paint poured up. And I'm just going to touch it in there. And I'm going to touch the bait with it on both sides. So you've got your two eyeballs. We'll do a couple of them right quick. So that has to dry again. Same old story, hurry up and wait. But so we don't have to wait for it to dry, just to kind of speed things up. I did a few ahead of time just with a yellow base coat. And then I'm going to take a smaller dowel rod and some black paint and make the pupil.
One man says, do you personally build them all?
Yes, I do. I don't know how or why, but I do. Tiffany helps me some. And yeah, we built every single one of them right here by hand. So if you get one that's bad, that's probably one that she helped make. All right, so now we've got it all the way to the point of having eyeballs on it. So here's one right here that's been, I had done ahead of time so we could kind of showcase the whole deal. So the issue now is we have one coat of clear coat on it, but there's no clear coat over the eyes. And the first coat of clear that I use is not a super, super thick coat. And also we have, around the bill and all, you have some bare area because where we cut it. Because we cut it after it was clear coated. I know I didn't clear coat it, but if you remember the steps, how I told you we did it, I've got the bait painted and clear coated, and then I cut it. So I'm re-exposing that bare wood. So we need to close that up. And the way we do that is with our actual final coat of clear coat. And we have to go back in here and I'll show you how we do it. It's a brushed on deal. So this is my drying wheel right here. Well, basically it's just a giant rotisserie. This is a handmade deal just out of necessity. And you see it's got all these clips on it. It'll hold 750 baits. And it is a beautiful sight when it's full of baits because that means those are finished. Well, basically, our final clear coat is a two-part brushed on clear coat. There's a paint stick.
Right here.
That's what I got glitter on.
Here's dry. One man says, are the eyeballs more for sales or do they really matter to the fish?
I think the eyeballs, make the bait prettier, make the bait look a little more realistic. Do I think you can catch a fish with a bait without eyeballs on it? Absolutely. But they definitely do kind of give the bait a little character and make the bait pretty. I definitely don't think they harm or hurt anything. A lot of people, we make a lot of custom run stuff for people. If y'all look for my baits, for sale, you can find them on our website. You can find them on Tackle Warehouse, lots of places. But if you Google search it, you'll find a place called Woodbait Country on eBay, and we make a lot of custom stuff for him, custom run batches of certain colors. And you'd be just how surprised just how picky some people are about they want this color bait but with this exact color eyeball. So in their opinion, it definitely seems to matter. So we've got our epoxy mixed up here, a two-part clear coat, and it's actually now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to fill in where we cut that hole. And we're going to try to fill in a little bit where we drilled that hole.
One man says, do you have any runs with rattles?
No, we don't make any ball. All the Balsa black labels that we make are all silent. I'm not saying I wouldn't make some with rattles, but it's not something that we've done. I've made some just for myself, just out of curiosity. As you can see how thick this material is, it has to be spun during the drying process or it would all run and sag and drip. off the bait. So if you just hung this bait up, now that it's brushed on there, when you came back, you'd have just a huge drip off the tail. So once I've got the bait brush coated, you can see it's all sealed up real good. Now, it will absorb a little bit of that. It's not uncommon for a person or a bait to be finished and that glue to actually be absorbed up in there, but it's still there. It's providing a protective, a protective coating, a protective shell around the bait. This is the most durable way I know of doing it versus any other process, but it's also the most time consuming, which is why most people don't do it this way. So now we're going to clip it on here and it's going to spin. And it's going to spin for about 14 hours. And once it spins for 14 hours, it'll come off the wheel. Where's those orange wheels?
Where's the what?
The ones you said were not drilled.
They're underneath on the bottom.
Right here?
Mm-hmm. They want to know if you do custom crankbaits for individuals.
I do. Or we do. But it depends. If you want a custom shape, it would all depend on how many a person wanted to purchase. If you wanted a custom color, then yeah, we do custom colors inside of the shapes that we currently make. It's a pretty good wait time. It probably wouldn't be that bad right now because we're all under, what do they call it, social distancing or personal quarantine. So pretty much all I'm doing right now is building baits. But if you caught me during the spring and you wanted some custom baits, and I'm all over the country fishing the MLF season, you might have to wait a long time to get them. But I'd be more than happy to make them for sure.
But how do they contact you?
There's a contact us on our webpage. I believe you can shoot us an email on our webpage, which is blacklabeltackle.com, or you could also go to our Facebook page or and contact us that way. So now we've got a bait that has been on the wheel for 14 or 15 hours. You can see it's solid. It's rock hard. You can't scratch it. You can't chip it. You can drop it on the ground. You can do whatever, just about in reason that you want to. This finish, I truly do believe, is the most durable way to finish any balsa bait. I'm not saying that there's not people who make balsa baits that are more durable than mine, but this is the durablest way I've ever figured out how to make one. So once we get that done, what we'll do, because the coatings are so peanuts, let me go get your drill.
Here's a wreck.
All right, so these coatings are so durable, I'm actually going to drill them out of the hook hangers.
They want to know, can you buy is the clear coat you use available to the public?
Can
it be bought?
Yes, it can. So once we get this done, now we're going to throw some hooks on there. We put, on all our baits that we make, we put Mustad TG76 trebles, which is a really good quality treble. It's a short shank strong, 2x short treble hook. So you really don't have to change the hooks on when you get them. You've got good stainless steel split rings, pretty much ready to go when you receive the bait. So there you go. Now, we ain't done yet. We still got to go tune it. So we'll hop in my truck We're going to enter to the pond, which is just the end of our driveway, and we'll tune the bait. I'll be right there.
He's coming, y'all. I promise. Here he comes.
Okay. Okay, sorry about the delay.
Do you only make crankbaits, or do you also make the style like the F13 Rapala minnow style?
I only make diving baits and one top water bait. We make a prop bait. It's kind of a bluegill shaped bait called a tease. I don't make any of the like F9 or F13. I caught a lot of fish on them, especially when I was a kid. So this is the pond where we tune the majority of our baits. It's just right here at our shop. The water's a little low right now. We ain't had much rain, which is odd for March. So basically when I say tune a bait, what I mean is you've got to line tie in any bait, in any crankbait. And this is good to know because even if you buy it from me tuned and you fish with it a lot, you catch a big fish or you get it hung up or you hit something with it, there's a chance you'll have to tune it again. My bait or any crankbait, anything. Baits, but for those of you who, all I'm going to do is I'm going to cast this bait out there and then I'm going to back straight to me. Hunting action, balsa baits, that's something that most people really like, balsa baits. So it might go a little bit, you want it to come back to center. If it goes way off left or way off right, then you need to adjust it or tune it. So all I'm going to do is bend this center line tie the opposite way of which way the bait's running if it's not running center. So if the bait runs way to the left, I'm going to bend the line tie to the right. And it doesn't take much to adjust the bait. That one runs a little bit to the right. Pretty good though. That's perfect right there. Get right here and see if you can see my line. If y'all can see the line on the water, I'll show you what I'm talking about when I say it hunts. A lot of people talk about baits hunt. A lot of baits don't hunt. But a bait that hunts actually comes back to center but runs left to right. I'm touching the water. When I wind that bait, you see that? I don't know if you can see it, but that line is, and what that's making that is have a whole bunch of constant little direction changes. And those constant little direction changes will trigger them fish that are following the bait or that are close to the bait into biting. That's what a person's talking about when they say they want a bait that hunts. So basically when you retrieve it, it's not going to be in a perfectly straight line, but for a bait to be stable and be very fishable, it needs to always come back to center. You want it to go left and right a little bit, but you don't want it to stay out left or stay out right. You want it to always come back to center. I'd say that one's tuned just about perfect. So at that point in time, we try to draw them off. Occasionally you'll get one that, I've actually had some guys call me and say they got one that like had teeth marks on it. Well, there are fish in this pond and occasionally want to grab it, and occasionally one of those does get sold. So that's the process of Black Label. I had a guy ask a while ago when I saw the phone, he said, how long have I been building these baits? I actually started building these baits when I was in high school. This was actually my senior project, was a homemade balsa bait, and they look nothing like these. I've learned a lot in the last 15 years or 20 years of my life making these baits. I started out making them just for myself, and I finally, got the process to where I can make enough of them to share them with the rest of the world. So they're kind of a passion of mine, basically a hobby gone wrong, but something that I really enjoy doing, and something that I hope a lot of y'all enjoy fishing with.
Question.
Hmm?